The management of federal lands has been a topic of considerable debate in the United States. With over 640 million acres, approximately 28% of the nation's landmass, administered by various federal agencies such as the Department of the Interior and the Department of Agriculture, there exists a profound opportunity for reform. This chapter proposes a comprehensive strategy to sell all non-defense-related federal lands, close the Department of the Interior and the Department of Agriculture, and transition the responsibility of public parks to individual states. The financial proceeds from this initiative could effectively address federal debt, while ensuring that state parks are maintained at a world-class level. Federal lands have often been seen as both a financial burden and a barrier to economic development. Maintaining vast tracts of land requires significant taxpayer dollars, which might be better utilized in other realms. By selling non-defense-related federal land, the government can achieve multiple goals: reducing federal expenditures. The Department of the Interior and the Department of Agriculture oversee extensive land management programs that incur substantial costs. Disbanding these departments could lead to substantial savings, promoting economic growth. The private sector is often more efficient in managing resources and can better respond to economic demands. Selling land can foster economic development and generate jobs. State control and accountability. Local and state governments are typically more attuned to the needs and interests of their constituents compared to federal agencies. Granting states control over public parks encourages responsible stewardship and accountability. Identification and appraisal of federal lands. A detailed inventory of all non-defense-related federal lands must be conducted. This would entail assessing environmental and economic factors to determine the fair market value of these lands. Transparent appraisals will ensure that the divestiture process is equitable and just. Legislative framework. Passing comprehensive legislation will be necessary to facilitate the sale of federal lands. This legislation should outline procedures for sale. Establish guidelines on how federal lands will be sold, including public bidding processes to encourage competitive offers. State trust. Fund. A dedicated fund for each state receiving public parks should be created, funded by a portion of the proceeds from land sales. This can be structured to provide robust annual distributions for maintenance and staffing. Transition of public parks to states. Once federal lands are sold, the public parks will be transferred to the states. This transfer should prioritize preservation of access. Ensure that parks remain accessible to the public with no detrimental changes to existing facilities or access routes. State management plans. States should develop a comprehensive plan for the stewardship of their new parks, incorporating local input to reflect the community's values and environmental principles. Use of proceeds. The distribution of proceeds from land sales should follow a clear framework. Trust funds for states. A substantial portion of the proceeds should be allocated to establish trust funds for each state. These funds would cover salaries, operate maintenance programs, and support conservation initiatives, thus ensuring parks are kept to world-class standards. Reduction of federal debt. The remaining proceeds should be directed towards paying down or eliminating the federal debt. This approach would not only relieve future financial burdens, but would also instill a spirit of fiscal responsibility within government operations. To provide a new estimate of potential proceeds from the sale of federal lands and real estate currently occupied by shutdown federal departments, while removing federal parklands and including real estate occupied by the Environmental Protection Agency, let's adjust our previous estimates accordingly. Shut down federal department properties, including EPA. Previously, we estimated around 500 properties from shutdown departments. Additionally, we can estimate the real estate holdings from the EPA. Assuming the EPA has about 100 properties around the country, we can now account for these in our estimate. So now we adjust the number of properties to around 600, combining 500 from other departments and 100 from the EPA. Continuing with an average estimate of around $2 million per property, the total potential proceeds from the sale would be 600 properties multiplied by $2 million per property, which comes to approximately $1.2 billion. Proceeds from the sale of non-park federal lands are approximately $1.68 trillion. Adding the proceeds from the sale of real estate occupied by shut-down departments, including the EPA, which is approximately $1.2 billion, the total estimated proceeds come to about $1.6812 trillion. Estimating the total amount needed to establish trust funds for the maintenance and upkeep of all federal parks, assuming they have been granted to individual states, involves multiple factors. These factors include the number of parks, their sizes, and the estimated annual maintenance costs. The divestment of non-defense-related federal lands presents a unique opportunity to reshape not only the structure of land management in the United States, but also the financial landscape of the federal government. By closing the DOI and USDA and transferring the management of public parks to states, this strategy promotes accountability, sustainability, and economic growth. The creation of trust funds ensures that state-managed parks can thrive, while the reduction of federal debt fosters a more fiscally responsible government. As we look forward, it is imperative to recognize that effective land management is about stewardship, accountability, and economic viability. This proposal embodies a vision where local interests are prioritized, finances are addressed, and parks remain cherished spaces for generations to come. Thank you for watching our in-depth exploration of federal land divestment and its potential impacts. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us create more content that delves into important topics affecting our nation and our world. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions and insightful analyses. Together we can foster a more informed and proactive community.